Good evening, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast, presented by Menards. I am your host, Starting Park, Colby Evans. It's great to be back after not reviewing a race for a week and having to do a preview show last week. We are back reviewing races, and boy, did we have a banger, man. We needed a race like this for ARCA to, really show the kind of the fun part of the sport, and man, did we get one. Charlotte delivered on all cylinders, produced a really, really entertaining race with a lot of comers and goers. And, of course, in the end, experience, you could say, paid off. And Joe Gibbs is back in victory lane in the ARCA series. We'll do our little intro first, and then we'll get right into it. We have, our Charlotte review, and then we'll have a preview of this weekend's Portland West race all the way out in Oregon, long ways away from here. So anyway, of course, follow me on social media at Startin' Parker. These are all on Twitter. All in the links description, so go follow me and my friends. ARCA Racing, Brock Beard, NASCAR Man, all my great friends that make this podcast possible. Go follow them, give them the support too. And yeah, let's get right into it, man. So Charlotte Motor Speedway, I kind of predicted that we have a way more entertaining race, and I'm glad I wasn't wrong, especially compared to 2021. We really did have just an overall better of a race. 2021, you had the Ty Gibbs factor. Ty Gibbs was a half a second faster than the field the entire race. Nobody could really keep up with him at all. And it showed. He led flag to flag. And then this year, we had more contenders. And I'm like, we actually have a chance here to get more than just one guy dominating the entire race. We have a good 3 to 4, I would even say 5 guys. I predicted last week we had about 5 guys who had a legitimate chance at this race. And it showed. There were a lot of comers and goers in this race, which was a thing for ARCA we don't usually see a lot. We don't usually see a lot of comers and goers. Usually one guy just gets out front and he kind of stays there, and it's really hard to run him down. But judging by what we saw in practice, again, I even said there too, it was going to be a very, very close race. We had originally 26 cars on the entry list, which was a little bit bigger than last year's by a couple of cars, which is always good to see. Anytime the car counts go up, that's always a good thing to see. Unfortunately, one withdrawal before the race itself. Fan favorite Tim Richmond and the Richmond Racing team showed up there. I believe from what I was told, it was their first lap of practice. And unfortunately, either the radiator went out or they had a hole in the oil pan. Either way, terminal, they don't have a spare motor. So unfortunately, especially when you look at how the race went, an easy top 10 finish was taken away from the Richmond Racing team at Charlotte. So that was kind of a big blow for them. And that put us down to 25 cars tonight for the race. I did have one of my friends there, DNF Racers. If you follow him on social media, go give him a follow as well. He was there. Some other storylines that he gave me. The 36 was actually John Garrett's Talladega car for Tim Monroe. It was just John Garrett's Talladega car with a 36 slapped on it. So that was kind of funny. And it's, you post that picture to social media, and it's the whole reason why we all love ARCA. It's the laziness, but yet cleverliness is what is loved so much about this sport. And so Tim Monroe's Startin' Park, I would easily put that in the Hall of Fame of ARCA Startin' Parks in terms of creativity. As mentioned on the previous week's podcast, the 12 did not have DL Wilson, even though he was scheduled to run. He stayed in Texas, of course, after the horrific events that happened a couple weeks ago. So they needed a driver. Tommy Vi Jr., you guys may know him. He won the Rookie of the Year in 2019. For Fast Check Racing. He came in to do a Startin' Park. In fact, two Andy Hillenberg, of the 4 Andy Hillenberg guys, sorry guys, 2 were going to Startin' Park. Dick Doney was the other guy in the 0-1. And then, like I said, Tommy Vi Startin' Park the 12 with Ryan Huff running his own car. Like he has been the past couple weeks in the 10. And then Tony Cosentino running a very solid race in the 11. We'll get to his finish when we go over the results portion. So, yeah, looking at the practice session, it was very clear that Toyota overall was going to be tough to beat. They had the first two positions. Now, even though I thought that this was a Kyle Busch entry, I was actually told by a lot of people that this 81 entry for Brandon Jones was not a KBM entry. This was an entry fielded under Coy Gibbs and Joe Gibbs Racing. So that was actually kind of cool. Technically, you had KBM versus Joe Gibbs in this race in the ARCA series. So that was kind of a fun mashup. Like we said last week, Brandon Jones, I predicted he was going to be the man to beat because his experience, I feel like, was going to pay off. Didn't win by a huge margin in practice qualifying session. Only beat Drew Dollar by just a couple of tenths. Daniel Dye was third. Rajah was fourth. Connor Mosack was fifth. Surprising to me, Corey Heim was all the way down in eighth. That 20 car has arguably been the strongest Venerini entry the entire season. So it was really shocking to see that car qualify not only, in the low top fives, but outside the top five. I predicted that car was either going to win or finish second. Some other notable qualifying results. Will Kimmel was 9th. Greg Van Oss was 10th. Pizza Man Jen Koyak was 11th. The two ladies, Amber Balkin was 14th. Tony Bredinger was 18th. Our man, Brad Smith, he was last. Josh White was 24th. It was also, side note, it was great to see that Eric Caudell was back at the track. If you guys don't know who Eric Caudell was, he was the driver of the 7 car at Talladega who was involved in just that vicious crash with Scott Melton. Thankfully, both Scott and Eric are doing better. Scott's still healing from his knee. He's going to be back. Hopefully, it's going to be a while for Scott, but hopefully he'll be back behind the wheel, maybe in the next year. I don't know when the plan right now is for Scott, but Eric, he was back at the track this weekend, not driving, just crewing. That was very good to see because, he's in his mid-50s, and you never want to see a driver like that take a scary crash. It's great to see him back walking in. So shout out to the CCM Racing team for being back this weekend at Charlotte with Eric. So we went on to the race here, and, in true ARCA fashion, it started out with absolute chaos, and I really mean chaos. The 81 of Brandon Jones took an early lead, and then right out of the gate, it's like chaos just ensued in the back of the field. The 6 car of Rajah was all over the place. The 15 of Parker Chase started smoking from the cockpit, from the dash. The 43 then got into the wall with the 18 of Drew Dollar. The 03 had the throttle hung. That's actually what happened to Josh White. We were thankful to get an update from Club Racing and Alex Club that the throttle had hung going into a turn and unfortunately hit the wall. So all that happened in a space of about 5 laps. 43 and 18 got in the wall. 6 was loose, and the 81 had pulled away. Just calamity. Everything we love about the ARCA series. Am I right, guys? So that was the first caution. 03 was unfortunately done for the day. Have gotten some updates. Alex Club does plan to run Iowa with that car. However, they are pretty much – they won't know. They really won't know probably till about Monday or Tuesday whether they're going to Iowa. Kind of a rough deal. I mean, it's kind of weird. The chassis overall is named Nightmare. The 03 chassis is named Nightmare, so that's kind of an ironic name for a car that crashed. And it so also ended the Drew Dollar convoy in the 18. He was only scheduled to run the 4 races this season in the 18 because then in June, I guess it is June, Sammy Smith will be turning 18 this month, leaving him old enough to now run the remaining big tracks on the circuit, similar to what Ty Gibbs had to do back in 2020. And boy, did they go roughly. Daytona, crash. Not sure what the Talladega, mediocre run, but nothing special. Crash at Charlotte and a crash at Kansas. So, Drew Dollar, he has the reputation of crashing, and it's just amazing how he literally had, a golden opportunity to win 4 ARCA races, and in my opinion, really didn't capitalize as much as he should have. And even if you look at the accident, with Daniel Dye. He really, in my opinion, did it to himself. People say Dye got into him. I say he just came up and put himself right in the wall. I don't know. I don't know how to call that crash, but either way, Drew Dollar's tenure in the 18 car is, at least on the ARCA side, is over. I'm not sure if he has any, if anyone can confirm for me whether he has any more starts in the Xfinity 18 car. I'm not for sure, but his ARCA tenure in the 18 is over. Curious to see how Sammy Smith definitely does on these tracks that he's never been to in this type of a car. That will definitely be interesting to see. It left Daniel Dye. He's had a rough return to the series. Didn't have an overall amazing run at Kansas, only really because the leaders crashed out, leading him to a better finish. And with losing the rear deck lid, not the rear deck, the rear bumper, and all the damage kind of affected his run. He still got a solid run in the end, but the championship battle, which we'll go over with at the end of this, is now at wider margin. So after all that happened, we finally got back to green on lap 15. By that point, the 36 of Tim Monroe, of course, one of the planned starting parks, had pulled off. We ran one green flag lap, and then the 0-1 of Dick Doney pulled off, and then the 12 of Tommy Vi Jr. would pull off a lap later. So in the span of 4 laps, 3 of the 5 Andy Hillenberg entries had pulled off track. So kind of hate to see all that happen because, again, the 12 originally was supposed to be a full race entry, so you always hate to see that. But, you know, we love Andy. We love Andy bringing these cars to fill up the field, so we understand it. It's been going for years now, and it's just part of the deal. But still happy Andy's there anyway. So that kind of took out a large – you could see that took out a large portion of the field. By this point, we were only down to 20 cars left in the field. We ran 8 laps, and even in those 8 laps, it was calamity because Rajah Caruth got the lead as they were going to that caution on lap 3. He hung on to it. Then when they restarted, Rajah kept the lead despite just being crazy loose. Now, I understand, being a rookie at a track like Charlotte, I would rather be on the loose side than the tight side. So I'd understand why they'd want to set the car up for a loose side. But they may have just done it a little too much, as we'll get to later in the race. So yeah, they ran 8 laps. Rajah kept the lead. Then on lap 23, unfortunately, fan favorite, the pizza man, Andy Jankowiak, slapped the wall. Not a lot of damage, but enough damage to where it was probably going to hurt his car in terms of getting a good finish. But he would continue on. Ironically enough, the free pass for this was the man himself, Brad Smith. So even 30 laps into the race, Brad was still in the lead lap. And it was great to see the 48 team run the whole race despite – I love Brad, but, man, we were in the way at some points. You know, I love our team, but I'm not going to lie, guys. We were in the way at some points. Thankfully, Brad, you know, he knows how to stay out of the way. So he tried his best out there. So we went back to being on lap 29. Corey Heim had gotten the lead only for a couple of laps, only for Nick Sanchez to take it back on lap 31. So, again, all over the place, guys. We were already at 4 different leaders here. Unfortunately, a scary crash on lap 32. And I call just no luck for this organization. Kimmel Racing, Will Kimmel, hard crash into turn 3. Blew a tire, and then I think an oil line probably ruptured. Car erupted in flames, and it's just, man, we know the budget of these ARCA teams is not very much. So seeing a sight like that is very sad because, you know, if you follow Kimmel Racing on Facebook, they bust their asses. You know, Bill and Will work so hard. And I'm not sure if this was the same car from Kansas, but either way, they were running 6th. They were having a great run. And it's just a shame to see this team just does not seem to have any luck whatsoever. Car is, you know, they reported that the frame might still be usable. You know, I'm going to be eager to see the shop news. When they do upload the shop news video, I will gladly share it on here on my channel so that way you guys can see it as well. But either way, it's a shame for the Kimmel Racing team because they try to show up with as competitive as possible. And even Will, you know, like I said, with Scott getting hurt, this was originally supposed to race that Scott Melton was supposed to run, but unfortunately, I told you guys earlier, he's still recovering from his injuries. And unfortunately, it means that Will has to step into the seat. While a great opportunity for Will Kimmel, Will has even admitted he doesn't like the reasoning being behind the wheel. And that's understandable. You don't like the fact that you have to be behind the wheel because your main driver got injured. So, sad deal for the Kimmel Racing team as they've lost. I'm not sure if the car is totaled or not. Looking at pictures of the car, it didn't look totaled, but it's definitely going to need a lot of work. That's for sure. Definitely going to need a lot of work. But we were losing cars fast here. Most notably during that caution session before this, and he got a lot of hate for it, and I just want to clarify. We saw Brian Dowsett under caution on the backstretch get into the 43 of Daniel Dye. And everybody's like, that's a certified ARCA moment. That's why ARCA can't be taken seriously. To what I want to say that, shut up. All right, you weren't there. You weren't paying attention to the race clear enough. Listening onto the 57 radio, Brian Dowsett reported that something had broken in the suspension and he had no control of the car. He was trying to catch back up to the back of the field. The car broke. You know, you're trying to, hit the brake. You're trying to steer it. No steering in the car whatsoever. And he felt really bad about hitting the 43. And unfortunately, it took him out of the race as well. The 57 was then retired after that. So for anyone making a joke about it, it was a legit mechanical issue on the 57. Brian Dozett's not that untalented. I know Brian. He's a better driver than that. It was a legit suspension mechanical type failure. So I hated seeing people really burying the race because of something like that. No. Look at the facts before you make a joke, okay? It was a mechanical type issue on the 57. So unfortunately, after all that, on just lap 42, going back to green on lap 42, we were already down to just 18 cars left on the track. And I wondered, man, going from the start of with 25 all the way down to 18, would that lower the attrition rate? I was wrong. We still had chaos. Nick Sanchez continued to lead through the caution and up until the halfway break. Unfortunately, just 4 laps later, more calamity would ensue as the 73 of Andy Jankowiak, who I told you guys was involved in a previous caution for hitting the wall. Well, he hit the wall again, and we had another car burst into flames. And like I said, for Kimmel Racing and a guy like Andy Jankowiak, part-time, not a crap load of money, you hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it for a guy like Andy and a guy like the Kimmels. I was a little, hard on the fire crew. I felt like they took maybe way too long to get to these cars to put them out. I feel like, if the car's on fire, even if the driver's out of the car, get to that dang car and put it out. And to me, they were just moving so slowly. That 73 car burned for probably a good 30 seconds more than it needed to. And that really upset me. And I guess I was the only one calling it out. And maybe they were going as fast as they could. I guess it's just my judgment because I hate to see a race car get burned to the ground because, that's a $50,000 to $150,000 race car. You never want to see something like that get destroyed in the blink of an eye. So unfortunately, really, this race was just killing the underdogs. I mean, at this point, I was wondering, is something going to happen to us, the 48 team? I'm like, this race was putting a huge damper on the underdogs. So yeah, the 73 was then done for the day. That was labeled the halfway break competition caution, which was scheduled for lap 50. They just went ahead and ran some caution laps to get up to lap 50. And then we had another underdog team fall out as the 06 of Zachary Tinkle, who's just been doing a banger job in the 06. They lost an axle, I believe, which then caused one of the tires to come off. So that was a tough deal for them. That put them out of the race. So even coming back from the lap 50 break, we were down to just 16 cars. And at that point, I'm like, is this attrition rate going to keep up? Are we going to keep wrecking? Or are we finally going to settle down and just have a clean race? And that's exactly what happened. We had a clean race. We went from lap 45 all the way to 100. We had a little bit of a change-up, though. Connor Mosek, who had pitted earlier in the race, not at the lap 50 caution, stayed out on older tires. He only held the lap for about a lap or two, and then Rajah got by. He would then lead for 3 laps. And then the 20 of Corey Heim would then get out front. I thought Heim was going to pull away, but then sure enough, like I predicted, experience pays off. And Brandon Jones drove up. He caught him. He ran him down from about 2 seconds. Caught him, passed him, and Brandon Jones would cruise to an easy victory by a good, I think they said about, 8 seconds? 8 seconds, yeah, 8.6 seconds. Because nothing really happened after that. Everybody had kind of gotten spread out. The only other retiree from the lap 50 caution to the finish of the race was Christian Rose. At lap 66, they suffered an engine failure. Been a really, really tough go for Christian Rose and that team. DNFs and just not really good runs. Been a real struggle for Bruce Cook Racing this season. So officially, 15 cars would only finish this race out of the 25 starters. A lot of calamity. Only 5 would finish on the lead lap. Your top 5 was Brandon Jones, Corey Heim, Rajah, Connor Mosek, and Greg Van Alst was able to sneak in for a top 5 finish. Daniel Dye would come home 6th. Amber Balkin, I might say, with a respectable 7th. One of the more notable moments that I almost glossed over was the Rev teammates getting together on track, which caused the number 2 of Sanchez to have a flat tire. You got to wonder if maybe there's going to be I'm sorry, guys, I slurred my words. You got to wonder if that's going to be a very interesting team meeting, if that's already happened. So kind of interesting moment there I saw, because Rajah, he wasn't clear, but he made himself clear. And then speaking of Rajah, 10 out of 10 driving for that rest of that stage. You guys watched it. Wow. I have seen a car loose, but to hang on as good as he did and still manage a 3rd place finish, that's exactly what he needed. That is what you call showing off the right way. And I hope he impressed some people. Hey, he already impressed some people. He's driving the 7 truck this weekend at Gateway for Spire. So, man, this Rajah kid, he's got talent, and I'm excited for it. I really hope this kid goes places because he has talent. What he did on that track with that loose car, not many drivers could. They probably would have pitted to, tighten that car up a little bit. Rajah stayed in it. Despite nearly losing it a couple times, he stayed in it and brought the car home 3rd. Very solid run for him. Out of overall, I gave the race on my Twitter an 8 out of 10. I really thought this was a good race. The only reason why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 was because that last stage kind of brought it down a little bit because we didn't have, much action after about, 25 laps to go. And that's all right. Not every race is going to have a banger finish, but the race itself I thought was very good. I guess not many people like, you could say the Cup leeches coming down to Xfinity. Well, the Xfinity leeches coming down to ARCA. I think this was kind of sponsor driven. The 81 will be at a couple more races with Brandon Jones. The next one will be at Iowa. Brandon's going to be tough to beat there as well. But again, guys, I tell you, I was really happy about the race. I was really happy about everything went. Unfortunately, guys, the TV ratings don't say otherwise. I was a little disappointed. I had reported after Kansas that the TV ratings for ARCA this season had been mostly up. Well, unfortunately, guys, we took a steep downturn. The TV ratings that finally came in showed that the ARCA series at Charlotte averaged a 0.16 rating with 263,000 viewers. Unfortunately, that is down from last year's 0.26 rating with 428,000 viewers. Nearly 200,000 viewers less than last year's race, which really doesn't make any sense to me because this race was on at almost the exact same time slot as last year, and this race was 1,000 times better than last year's race. So, I don't know. That's kind of sad to me because this race deserved a heck of a lot better than a 0.16 rating, but I don't know, guys. We'll just have to see how it goes throughout the season. But so kind of unfortunate that, a home game for a lot of these teams in Charlotte that the home race at Charlotte, despite being a banger of a race, got, in my opinion, a pretty disappointing rating overall. I was hoping that we'd hit about 500,000 viewers, but clearly we've just barely made half that. So coming out of that race, guys, our point standings are as this. Rajah Caruth, the incident with Sanchez, having Sanchez drop a couple positions. Rev is still 1-2 in the points. Rajah leads by 5 points. Daniel Dye is now behind by 7. Tony Breidinger is 4th in points, minus 46. Amber Balkin is in 5th, minus 51. Greg Van Alst is 6th in points. Zachary Tinkle is 7th. Corey Heim is 8th. Brad Smith is 9th. And Ryan Huff is sitting in 10th. Now, of course, out of the full-time drivers so far that have competed in every race, only 8 have. And it looks like we are now at the point in the ARCA point standings where we are seeing a definitive full-time run with the drivers. And it looks like it's going to be a 3-horse race for this year's championship. Daniel Dye and the Rev teammates, Rajah and Nick. Now, I predicted at the beginning of the season my pick was Nick Sanchez, but I'm telling you, man, Rajah Caruth is really impressing me. I still think, though, that those road courses at Mid-Ohio and Watkins Glen may hurt him. But we'll just have to get there when we get there. But, man, this championship battle, just like last year with what we saw in Corey Heim and Ty Gibbs, you don't need, 16 drivers like the Cup Series to have an interesting championship battle. Those two put on an interesting championship battle until it kind of got finalized within the last couple of races. I think these 3 will have a championship battle that goes all the way down to the wire. Another championship that's important to the ARCA series is the Owners' Championship. Of course, the Owners' Championship's the big title that pays at the end of the year. Currently, Billy Venerini in the 20 car still leads, but Max Siegel is close behind him. The 6 car is in second. The 2 car for Max Siegel is in third. The Murray Gallagher 43 car is in fourth, and the Bill Venerini 15 car is in fifth. Kyle Busch Motorsports 18 is in sixth. Kathy Venerini 25 is in seventh. Mark Rett for the 30 car is in eighth. Greg Van Alst with his own 35 team is ninth. And the 11 Andy Hillenberg entry sits 10th. Now, of course, with Sammy Smith not having a chance at the championship this year in the driver's side, Kyle Busch is going to be going after that Owners' Championship like he's done in the Truck Series for the early days of KBM. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be a little bit tough for that 18 to recover. As far as it is right now, they stand at a 45-point gap. And as we know, guys, a 45-point gap may not be that big in the other series, but in ARCA, a 45-point gap is going to be hard to close, especially we're already through a quarter of the way through the season. We only got 15 races to go in the main division at least. So I'm telling you, man, Kyle Busch Motorsports, they're going after that Owners' Championship. And Drew Dollar really did kind of put him in a hole. Smith might be able to get them up a couple positions, but I think it's safe to say, man, unless something happens to the 20 car and Rev, I don't think KBM is going to be winning this ARCA Owners' Championship. They might climb a couple positions, but I think their chance at the ARCA Owners' Championship is relatively gone. And that's a huge blow for that team, because I bet that was the main goal at the start of this year, was to show everyone, hey, even with two different drivers, we still had the best car. So that's kind of a big blow, sadly, so that's a shame. But anyway, guys, that was the Phoenix portion. My God, that was a botch. The Charlotte portion of the show. So we're going to transfer into Portland here in 1 second. Just need a drink of water. Oh, that's better. So we got, guys, just again, I want to thank you guys. We got 7 people watching. We don't have any likes, sadly, so if the 7 people watching could watching live with us could give us a like, it'd be much appreciated. We are so close to 300 subs. We're like 294 right now, so if we could get that to 300, be much appreciated, guys. Thanks again for your continued support of this podcast. You guys make this so much fun. I love you guys, all your support, all the videos. We got more fun classic ARCA racing videos coming up. I promise you guys, you're going to like the next one. And let's get into this Portland race, because I'm telling you guys, I'm really interested to see how this weekend goes. Portland 112, one of the weirder names for a race. The ARCA West Series is back for their fourth time in 2022. Unfortunately, the entry list is not what I expected, and unfortunately not what other people expected, but I think we have to look at the logistical reasons why. Obviously, we all know what's happening in the world right now. It's not really overall that great, and the West Coast is really suffering. And I think we have to take the West Coast, what's going on over there with the costs. We have to incorporate that. That's why Bobby Hillis is not running right now. The costs are simply too much. And again, that's actually why Bobby's not running, guys. In case you're wondering why Bobby only ran the first race, the costs are too high. He can't afford to show up. He doesn't have a sufficient sponsor. And I think it shows, I think it could prove a reason why of the West Series car counts being so far down this year. I guess I never took that into account, that it really could be that the real world issues over on the West Coast, I guess all around the U.S. right now with the costs going up, but more on the West Coast, is affecting the ARCA West Series with the car counts. Because I would bet that we would get more cars if maybe we were, where we were last fall. So just 18 cars on the entry list. Some notable entries, we got our usuals. But notable entries I want to go over. Quarterman, Dale Quarterly, good to see him back. Daniel Dye will be running this race. Yes, the GMS ARCA team will be making the long 5,000-plus mile journey from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way to Portland, Oregon. Man, I tell you, that is a long haul for just an ARCA race. So, to that hauler driver of the 43, I hope he gets a bonus. Connor Mosak, who will be driving the number 18, for Joe Gibbs Racing, he will be in the 17 for MMI Racing, the Steve McGowan team that has run with Amber Slagle this season. Clark Lukens will be in the 77 for the PP1 Motorsports team. Vince Little will be in the 85. And David Smith will be in the 05. Now, this is not the David Smith that we had previously seen running this race. This is a different David Smith that is all the way from British Columbia. So it's great to see, some new drivers showing up this weekend. Then, of course, we got our usuals. We got Cole Moore, Bridget Burgess, Joey East, Andrew Tuttle, the Pedrancellis, Austin Herzog, Todd Souza, Tanner Reff, Takuma Koga, Jake Drew, and Eric Nascimento. So a pretty solid field. And again, we only had 18 cars at this race last season. Defending winner Taylor Gray is not there, unfortunately, to defend his title. Still believe, for everyone who watched that race last year, still believe Jake Drew got screwed out of that one. They put on a heck of a race last year, and they still only had 18 cars. So I think having only 18 cars is not going to hurt this race whatsoever. I still think it's going to be a good race. Even Takuma Koga put on a really good showing last year. I really don't know who's going to win this race. I think we have at least probably 5 to 6 guys who have a legit chance at this. Moore, for sure. Quarterman, we know he's good on the road courses. Mosak, Souza, Drew, and I would even throw in Ref. So I think it's definitely going to be a good race. We have a lot of contenders there. The 31 of Paul Pedrancelli, the father of PJ, he's been doing a lot of starting parks mostly, but he did run this full race last year. And the reason why I incorporate that is, although the car may not be perfectly set up for a road course, well, at a road course, you can run by yourself. You don't have to clip, the corners stripes. You don't have to clip anything. You can run a nice, clean pace. And I believe that's why the 31 of Paul actually runs these full races, because he can run at his own pace and not have to worry about being black flagged. As long as he's not running like dog slow or snail slow, he's running at a conservative pace that ARCA deems safe to run. Especially because the Portland road course, while it's not a huge road course, it's not the biggest one in the world, it's definitely got plenty of space where the cars can, expand a lot, especially with only 18 on the grid. We do come into this race. The championship battle is still very, very close, and I would still say it's anyone's game. Jake Drew, the Sunrise Ford teammates lead the championship right now. Jake Drew leads by 5 points over Tanner Reff, 6 points over Cole Moore. My man PJ Pedrancelli's in fourth, 14 points behind. Austin Herzog is in fifth, 15 points behind, and Todd Souza is in sixth, 17 points behind. We have had, like I said, car count struggles. We only had about 16 at the Las Vegas Bull Ring. We only had about 15 at Irwindale. So it's been a struggle this season, but I'm starting to really get the idea that it's the real world issues right now with what's going on with the costs. That's why the ARCA West Series, and I really hope it doesn't hurt the ARCA West Series to a point where it might shut down. I don't want it to come to that because we know, guys, it's not getting any better out there. And I really hope it doesn't hurt the car counts. Because we know, guys, I'm sure we've all seen it. We've all looked at the news. It's not very good over there. So hopefully all those ARCA teams on the West Coast, some who may watch this show, I hope you guys are still doing okay. I hope financially you guys are doing stable. We want to see you guys run as good as possible. You know, I know for teams like the Burgess Racing team, that's got to be a struggle. You know, for Andrew Tuttle, he's a family-owned operation. That's got to be a struggle, you know? I mean, at least for teams like, Sunrise Ford who have sufficient sponsorship, like for the Pedrancellis, that's got to be rough on them. At least Bill McNally, they got plenty of sponsorship money coming in from Napa. And even Takuma Koga has quite a bit of Japanese-related sponsorship as well. That 7 team is not doing as bad as people think either. So it's just going to be a rough going, guys. I would definitely not expect – if we get over 20 cars for any West race, guys, I would genuinely be shocked. And I'm telling you that right now, not because we don't have the teams wanting to race. It's because of what's happening right now in the world. They simply can't afford to do it. And I hate that. I really hate that there are teams out there who can't go to the racetrack, not because they don't have the equipment. They just don't have the money. And it's not because they don't have the sponsorship. They just don't have the money because everything costs too much. And I hate that. But that's a rant for another time. We all know that. So as for my pick for the race, we got a lot of people watching right now. So I want you guys to give your pick. Who's going to win? Will Sunrise Ford get the win? Will the man himself, Todd Souza, get the win? Or will Bill McNally sneak in? Or will Trans Am driver Connor Mosek, will he pull off the win? Or will GMS all the way out to Portland, will they get the win? A lot of contenders in this race. Definitely no. The only stragglers I really see in the race will be the 31, will be the 39, and the 77. Unfortunately, the Joe Nava team, PP1 Motorsports, they try their best. It's just they don't have the best equipment, and it kind of sucks because that team works really hard. It's just, again, the costs over there. You just can't get the best equipment if you don't have the right amount of money. The owner points for that series, we'll look into that because the same thing. That's how they get paid. Again, Sunrise Ford continues to lead. It's pretty much the same. Bob Roncati sweeps 1 and 2 right now with the 6 leading, the 9 second. Bill McAnally sits third. Paul Pedrancelli Jr. in fourth. Bill McAnally again in fifth. And Kelly Souza in sixth. Jerry Pitts for the 7 team in seventh. Mike Nackey for the Nackey Motorsports team in eighth for the 54 car. Eric Nascimento for the 4 team in ninth. And then Sarah Burgess for the 88 car is in 10th. So again, guys, the West Series is definitely struggling this season. It's a sad sight to see because, I said it right here on, guys, and a lot of you agreed with me that the West Series last season had put on a better show than the main division. Unfortunately, I think that's not going to happen this season, and it might not happen ever again because, unfortunately, a lot of these teams just can't afford to show up anymore. The Velocity Racing team, Travis Milburn, we haven't seen them at all this season besides Phoenix. The Cart Idaho team is pretty much done. Josh Finopoulos and the 21 team, you don't see them showing up full-time anymore. It's just not financially feasible anymore. And the payouts show. I got the payouts right here, guys. We'll go over them. You think alone for this trip, I can't imagine what the fuel bill would be. I can't imagine, guys. And I look at these payouts right here. Of course, again, guys, go to the competitor site on the ARCA Racing website. You yourself can check out all the entry blanks, all the fire suit drives. Again, strongly recommend going to the competitor site. It's a lot of fun. But if you guys want to find out what the race winning purse is, it's $5,000. With all the contingency awards that a team could win, the highest purse is then just $11,600. $11,000 to win. When on the fuel bill might be half that. Like, it's ridiculous. But unfortunately, these are the way the payouts have been for a long, long time. I don't want to see anyone, crapping on the payouts because it's a little warranted, I understand. But the payouts have been this bad for years, and I mean years. And it's one thing we just have to accept. But I do agree. These teams, I would even say last place team will probably spend at minimum $6,000 to $7,000 to $15,000 on this trip. When the payout for last place right now, guys, 18th is a modest $1,300, which doesn't even pay for a set of tires. It sucks, but unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is with this series. It's the one main gripe I will forever have with this series. Despite being a huge supporter of ARCA, it'll always be one of the main gripes that I have about this series is the crappy payouts. But I'm just a guy who yells at a camera. Not much I can do. But anyway, guys, that's this weekend's stuff for ARCA. ARCA West Series at Portland. We run after the Xfinity race. I actually think that's why the Xfinity series, we have no Xfinity guys running this race. I actually think that's why. The ARCA West race is afterwards. If it was maybe before the race, maybe you would see some more Xfinity guys in the race. But I think, a lot of them, they don't want to run. You're getting the Xfinity race over with. You don't want to hop in an ARCA car and then do the exact same thing you just did. You just don't. So it's understandable why Connor Mosak's the only guy who would actually run the Xfinity race and then the ARCA West race. He's a Trans Am guy. He runs all over the place. Any race he can get in, he'll get in. So race winning pick for this weekend. My underdog pick, Dale Quarterly. Definitely going to go with him. My race winning pick, I will go with Connor Mosak. So those are my picks, guys. Leave yours in the chat or the comment section. As for my championship pick, though, for this season, it's still wide open. Obviously, my underdog pick for the championship is PJ Pedrancelli 33 car. I just think Sunrise Ford has been on fire this season, and I think Jake Drew deserves the championship after, especially with what we saw last year with his teammate costing him the title. So I think Jake Drew is my championship pick overall, and Connor Mosak is definitely my pick for this weekend's race. But my dark horse is Dale Quarterly. Dale has been very good on the road courses. I do expect him to be at Sonoma as well, pending on how this race goes. Oh, boy. What a show, guys. Had a lot of fun today. I unfortunately, I don't know if we get West TV ratings because it's not on a national station. It's just on Flow Racing. So unfortunately, it looks like there won't be any TV ratings for this weekend. I do have some fun news to announce, though. We did previously mention that Rajah Caruth will be running this weekend for the Truck Series. Also, ARCA driver Justin Carroll will also be running, or attempting, I should say, this weekend's truck race at Gateway. And yours truly will be also at Gateway this weekend. I also announced it on my Twitter, but I figured I would announce it on here as well. I will be at Gateway this weekend, volunteering for the 56 and 5 Hill Motorsports organization. Will not be staying for the Cup race, mainly because it's already sold out. Congratulations to NASCAR, by the way, of selling out Gateway. And I just don't want to deal with St. Louis traffic as well. Because for anyone who's driven through St. Louis, the traffic's a little rough. But yeah, so that's kind of my weekend plan, guys. So again, follow the Start and Park account. I'm going to try to keep posting as much possible for the 56 and 5 guys. Again, guys, let's get this channel to 300 subs. I cannot thank you guys enough for your continued support of the ARC Racing podcast. Go check out all my videos. I've uploaded a bunch of little short, old school NASCAR videos from archives, and then some fun, content videos that I released. Again, I got another one coming up on another late ARCA driver. I'm not going to say his name, but I do have another video coming up on a late ARCA driver that I hope you guys enjoyed just as much as you did the Eric Martin video. And I strongly suggest for anyone who's seen the Eric Martin crash but doesn't know the story of Eric Martin, strongly suggest you guys go check out that video. It's been very well received by the ARCA community, which makes me feel so happy because the ARCA family, we really are one big family. From our fans to our crew guys to our drivers, we are a big family, and that's why I love this. One of the reasons why I love this series so much. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great rest of your Wednesday night. Again, like and subscribe for more. Cannot thank you guys enough. And we'll catch y'all next week for the ARCA Racing podcast with our Portland review and our Iowa preview. So we'll see you guys next week. And yeah, so long, guys. Have a great night.